Has the outrage cycle moved past Nolan's Odyssey? Is Nolan's Odyssey a commercial hit?
Show me the money.
Am I still doubling down just to tick off the internet?
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
And in service of that, I offer you the superior movie to the Odyssey, dealing with Homer's work, and that is the 2004 Wolfgang Petersen adaptation of the Iliad, Troy.
For Troy!
Before you roll your eyes or think that the clickmonger games are about to begin, please hear me out as I try to give you the tale of the tape between two epic retellings of the same Greek story. One version, of course, about the Iliad, and the other about the Odyssey. The Odyssey is being told through the lens of one of the greatest living filmmakers and perhaps one of the greatest of all time. It's epic. It's beautiful. Nolan's use of practical effects is a breath of fresh air in a world dominated by CGI blockbuster hits. Just the other day, I was watching Terminator 2, and I was amazed by the effects that they were able to pull off without CGI. In an age where Nolan could really have cut corners, he didn't. Even when his score is blasting over the dialogue of his movies and his convoluted telling of stories keeps people from actually knowing what the story is about, he's still one of the greats. But beyond generalized praise for Nolan, I can give the Odyssey praise in this way. It is definitely truer to Homer's poem than Troy is. But that said, the big problem with Nolan's film comes down to its core message. This is where we can get into the cons of the Odyssey. Push aside the unbelievably woke casting and the very idiotic lengths people will go to try to justify Nolan's decision-making here. And yes, I'm looking at all of you who complained about the fact that Brad Pitt didn't look Greek when he played Achilles, which I will gladly agree with, to be intellectually honest, as long as you're willing to do the same and agree with me, that the comparison with Brad Pitt and Lupita Nyong'o as the Queen of Sparta is absolutely ridiculous.
You're so stupid!
Push aside also the insanity of Ellen Page playing a man and focus for me just for a moment on the message of the Odyssey. Many have tried to claim that Nolan's epic is actually conservative and even Christian, and that all the hassle over the movie is nothing but clickbait. For any who may be suffering from Nolan denial, I can all assure you that it is about neither of those things, and most egregiously, not even about Homer's Odyssey. If you doubt that, please let Nolan speak for himself. Christopher Nolan said he had to change the ending of Homer's Odyssey, specifically Telemachus' punishment of the disloyal maidservants, because it is so grim and misogynistic. Ah yes, that timeless Christian message. I remember when Jesus gathered his disciples around, and even the little male children, and rebuked them all for their internalized misogyny. So let me just pause at something. If you squint hard enough, you can probably try to make anything about anything, but you would have to, at that point, be squinting so hard that you're closing your eyes. So if you try to argue that breaking Zeus's law and Athena's condescending glares actually make the Odyssey a conservative epic, I just have a simple question for you. What was the Odyssey originally about? Now again, I'd suggest that the Odyssey generally coheres with the beats of Homer's poem more closely than Troy does. But when we look at the Odyssey, we know what it really is about. It's principally about nostos, or return home. And that would have been conservative and, dare I say, Christian, showing that not even a goddess tempting a man with an idyllic paradise can keep him from the duties that he has to his wife and his boy, and the love that he has for his home, would have been a powerful message. Every family man knows that there's a powerful urge to protect and to care for his home. It could have been about Metis, or cunning and wisdom, which Odysseus was known for. But I struggle to understand how Nolan's film is truly about this. And I didn't struggle because of the unintelligible dialogue swallowed by the score. I'm saying I don't see it because it just isn't there. A dude riddled with guilt whose only hope is to slaughter a bunch of dudes in the end, who honestly had it coming, doesn't really tell me Odysseus has learned any powerful lessons about breaking the golden rule. Even the Greek idea of apokatastasis, or the restoration of things to their original order, would have been nice. But there is no real striving for Odysseus to become a better man, no arc to speak of, to show any character evolution, and therefore no ultimate redemption. Maybe that kind of messaging is too optimistic for Nolan's bleak films, but I certainly know that it wasn't for Homer. So when it comes to Nolan's Odyssey, the film is closer in plot, but not in theme. This is where Troy shines. Troy takes a bunch of liberties when it comes to the plot. Menelaus dies after fighting Hector, Agamemnon is killed by Briseis, and Priam is killed by Agamemnon. Patroclus is Achilles' cousin rather than what some filthy-minded scholars suggest. And most importantly, the Iliad takes place right in the middle of the Trojan War and principally focuses on the disagreement between Achilles and Agamemnon. Much of the story that we see in Troy has been taken from the broader tradition of the Trojan Wars and not necessarily found in Homer's story. And yes, Brad Pitt isn't your stereotypical Greek, but he's light years closer than Lupita is to Helen. Did I mention that before? Anyway, let's put it this way. The casting of the Odyssey is as convincing as Ellen is Elliot, but I digress. The most important thing in Wolfgang Petersen's Troy is that he totally nails the main theme of the Iliad, where the Odyssey doesn't. Troy beautifully depicts the conflict between Agamemnon and Achilles and pits the two against each other from the very beginning, just as the Iliad does to show a bloodthirsty tyrant who purely craves power and a Greek warrior who embodies the best that Greece has to offer. Sure, Achilles is a cold-blooded killing machine, and he's doing it in part for vanity, but at least Achilles has trained and perfected his craft. He cares about his fellow soldiers. In other words, Achilles has earned virtue and Agamemnon has stolen it. Not only does this portray the Greek virtue of arete perfectly, but it is what the Iliad really was about. With all the fighting between noble Hector and the trickery of Odysseus and the Trojan horse, this is easy to miss out on. This is why Achilles praises Hector even as a sworn enemy and gives his body back to Priam. He realizes a king who is far superior in honor, even if he isn't in military strength, is worthy of praise. Achilles recognizes objective virtue even when it is embodied by his enemy. Agamemnon only recognizes power, utility, and submission. That is the moral tale of the Iliad and of Troy, and it's a relevant message for today. When a failed rapper can become the most important mayor in one of the largest cities in America simply because he caters to the agenda of diversity, it's not hard to see the story of Agamemnon. When you see that Achilles is not a perfect man, but one who worked to get to where he is, you see what's needed to heal our world. Troy asks, what happens when people who possess institutional power claim authority without possessing corresponding excellence or virtue? That question is relevant in our bureaucratic age and on full display as a certain doctor takes the stand to testify about his actions during a certain pandemic.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
And for the record, this would make Wolfgang Petersen a prophet to tell such an important story that would matter so much even after the movie had been released. Except for one big thing. This isn't Petersen's story. It's Homer, and he's the real prophet because he wrote that hundreds of years before Christ walked the earth when he penned the Iliad. Those universal stories still resonate today, and when we have the opportunity to tell them, we should take it. But I don't think it really ever showed up in the Odyssey. And because it didn't, I encourage you to stream Troy for free on YouTube and enjoy it for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love the video that YouTube selected for you on the screen. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe before you go, but most importantly, go with God.